Welcome back to the Washington Athletic Club for the Players Championship with the Simple Green Race for 8 and the World Players of Handball. My name is Dave Benson alongside broadcast partner David Fink for this men's semifinals match. Luis Moreno up against Charlie Shanks. Let's go down to the court right now. We have an announcement with our president, Fred Lewis, who is courtside. Fred?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Washington Athletic Club in beautiful downtown Seattle, Washington. The World Players of Handball present the semifinals of the Players Championship in the Race for 8. We have two contestants. Introducing the first contestant, he will be serving. He is from Lurgan, County Armagh, Ireland. He is a top 5 player on both sides of the Atlantic. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall. He weighed in at 195 pounds. He's 29 years old. Let's have a hand for Charlie Shanks.
Did Charlie make weight for this match, Dave?
He actually had a scale right by that door.
Okay.
And receiving service. He's the #1 player right now on the WPH Race for 8. He's won 4 of the 7 pro stops. He was born in Hermosillo, Mexico. He now lives in Tucson, Arizona. He stands 5 feet 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 175 pounds. Let's have a round of applause for Luis, the Natural Moreno.
They must be playing this match at a catch weight.
Okay, Dave, back to you.
Thank you very much, Fred Lewis. Michael Buffer, Fred Lewis, I guess, doing the weigh-ins there. Now they have these restrictions here at the Washington Athletic Club where they don't allow video cameras to film people with their shirts off. And during that weigh-in, that's what
Charlie actually had to get down to his birthday suit to make 190, so you could see why maybe they have that restriction.
This is the men's semifinals, Washington Athletic Club men's semifinals. Now, this is going to be a real interesting match here because Luis did not look sharp last night, and Charlie looked all of sharp. And therefore, just looking at how they performed so far in this tournament, Charlie might not be the underdog you may think he would be up against the #1 player on the Race for 8 Tour in Luis Moreno. Charlie representing the Tucson Gunslingers and Luis representing the Idaho Spuds.
Well, interestingly, Dave, these guys both in the top 5, but they've only met one time this year in the first 7 stops. That was Charlie Shanks defeating Luis Moreno in a thrilling 11-9 tiebreaker semifinals at the Simple Green U.S. Open.
And now they're going to serve off here. There'll be 2 games to 15 and the breaker played to 11. Traditional style scoring, no rally. And the referee called the score, even though we didn't hear the ref. And there's that first kill shot from Charlie Shanks. Luis leaves a lot of balls off the back wall, and Charlie is a back wall kill shot artist with that right hand of his.
Well, Charlie's really a complete player. You look, Dave, at the first 2 rallies here. Luis giving Charlie a huge back wall setup on his first serve, and Charlie hitting an ace on his first serve. And that was nearly another ace. I had an opportunity to play Charlie just about 6 weeks ago, Dave, and in the 2nd and 3rd games, I'm not sure I've ever played anyone that played at that level. Just absolutely incredible serves. And followed that up with some amazing offense with both hands. And he makes gets, as you can see right there.
Well, he's really long, but he's very powerful.
He's playing at a very high level right now. And we talked a lot yesterday, Dave, maybe too much about the motivation or lack of motivation from Alan Garner, but let's give some credit to Charlie Shanks, who was just incredible last night. And there's the announcers cursing. He was cursed while I was complimenting him.
So we throw the ing at the end of that, if it happens while you're talking about it.
And that's
another
consecutive back wall setup errors from Charlie Shanks.
1 serves 2, Moreno serving. Wearing the green shirt from Tucson, Arizona. Originally, of course, born in Hermosillo, Mexico, and Sonora. Charlie Shanks from Northern Ireland, Armagh County.
But living in New Jersey now, Dave, as he's dedicated himself to pro handball for this and next season.
3, serving 1.
That's going to be up high for Luis.
That would have been a beautiful right corner kill there. Charlie had that in his sights.
I can't tell.
John Bike, who was refereeing this match, did not call unavoidable.
Yeah.
Well, Luis, I think, was saying he didn't think that was going to make it, because Luis was staying almost directly next to Charlie. I don't think Luis could really tell, though.
He's to the side. He didn't run into it. He's allowed to be at the side. He's already there. 3, serving 1.
Luis early, Dave, in this first game, going away from his power serve.
That was
Now
actually an ace. I thought that was
4,
short.
serving 1.
That was a beautiful laser from Charlie Shanks.
Side out.
And that's the third air Charlie's made with his right hand. That's about as easy a shot as a pro handball player, any handball player, can hope for.
But he's
1,
still
serving
leading
4.
4-1 here. But that can be erased very quickly because Luis has one of the best serves on the tour, if not
Point.
the best.
And look at Luis using that V pass as an offensive weapon there.
2, serving 4.
You see most players shooting that ball an inch high, or at least trying to. Luis just hits the high percentage V pass.
Side out.
That looked really pure, Dave.
Sometimes you'll see Charlie actually shoot the ball
4,
better with his
serving
left.
2.
He'll take balls with his left in the middle of the court and shoot them. That looked like it could have been avoidable there, Dave, as Luis crossed the path of Charlie. I know that we've talked about that throughout this season. I know Luis is trying to get himself back in position. He's not doing it intentionally.
No, it was follow through. 5, serving 2.
Charlie's only leading 5-2, but really outplaying Luis at this point. Luis's only points have come on the 1-2-all pass and 3 of Charlie's errors, 2 of those accounting for Luis's 2 points.
2,
Well, Luis is
serving
not
5.
a fast starter.
Amazing shot there from Charlie. He did start very well and played extremely well in his
5,
last
serving
final.
2.
That was race stop number 6 in Salt Lake City, just blowing away Sean Lenning.
Point.
But I think you're saying traditionally, maybe not a fast starter. That's the
6,
fiancée
serving 2.
of Charlie Shanks. Very lovely young lady.
Side out.
And another side out, another hand air. She's really focused in on her
2,
future
serving
husband.
6.
She's one of his, if not the biggest fan of Charlie Shanks. She's always at his tournaments, so if you're going to put up Charlie Shanks at a handball tournament, you get a 2-for-1 deal.
Point.
I'm also a member of the Charlie Shanks fan club.
So
Working my way up the
3-to-1.
ladder.
Make that a 3-for-1 deal.
3, serving 6.
3 serve 6.
Side out.
That was a terrible serve from Moreno, and he knows it.
That's the third huge backwall setup Luis has given off of his first serve. And you know, Dave, he has a tendency
6,
to go
serving
for so
3.
much reverse that sometimes he comes so far underneath the ball that he lifts it, and then you see those huge backwall setups.
Point.
Beautiful shot there from Charlie. Had a lot of options there. He froze Luis behind him on his left and just drilled
7, serving
a
3.
natural kill, 2 inches high.
Now remember, we're only going to 15 points, Dave. Charlie's already halfway there now, and now he's over the halfway mark.
8, serving 3.
That's true, Dave. I didn't know we were talking softly now, but
Point.
now it's Charlie with a left-handed kill down the left.
Okay, now we can talk in our
Someone
normal
using
voices.
a light or a camera? There's something bright underneath that's bothering them in the director's area.
The players are complaining about something light-colored that is down in the director's booth area. Apparently there's a viewfinder
Okay, the
that
score is 9, serving 3.
that is bright. It's the same color as the white wall that's right next to it, so I can see why it would be confusing.
Well, these players, Dave, are
Point.
very neurotic, as are, I think, most professional athletes. They notice everything that's going on.
Well, I know the announcers are neurotic.
10 serving 3.
And I am talking about you and myself. 10 serves 3. This is the tough serve right there from Charlie. We talk about Moreno, who has a lot of spin on his serve, but Charlie's right there with him.
Oh, no, side out, side out.
Charlie just pegged himself with the ball. These are the type of mistakes you can't make because Luis has such a powerful serve that he can just edge his way back in on a few side outs, 3 or 4 point runs.
3 serving 10.
And he'll be right back into this. I don't think that's the serve that you're going to get Charlie on. Luis is fortunate Charlie didn't just put that ball right down.
4 serving 10.
Well, once again, Luis's point coming on a terrible Charlie Shanks error, as have all 4 of his points at this point. That's a bad miss hit from Charlie.
Luis jumps over the ball. Charlie
Love this angle here, Dave.
gets it back. I do too. And Luis now at another point, making it 5-10.
And that's why Luis Moreno is called the natural. You see that smooth stroke there off the back wall, Dave.
5 serving 10.
Effortless and easy power. And now Luis really starting to feel it, Dave. Charlie has to be kicking himself, made a couple of errors leading 10-3, and now it's Luis quickly coming back into this
Timeout,
first game.
Shanks, your first 1 minute. Score is 6 serving 10.
You heard that timeout called from our referee, John Bike. We have an interview that we had earlier this weekend with Charlie Shanks, and we asked him how he prepared for an event, and this is what Charlie had to say.
So how have I prepared for this event? It's not like it's not like the US Open where it's the first event of the year, so you have 2 or 3 months to prepare for it in advance. Because this season you're basically playing a tournament every month, it's very difficult to have a block of training in there. So it's just a case of, you know, just trying to stay in good condition, eating right, and you know, playing, you know, moderate practice matches, you know, moderate intensity, you know, not pushing yourself too hard and not doing too little. So it's trying to find that balance.
Charlie Shanks talking about what motivates him. How do you prepare? A whole bunch of questions asked to Charlie Shanks, and we're going to hopefully get more of those. We'll ask Luis Moreno the same exact question at our next time out. Luis gets that ball over. His first strike is so dangerous, and that should be an avoidable. We can't hear what the referee had to say here because the referee's mic is not turned on.
So that's a point.
And it was an avoidable called.
7 serving 10.
And you see no argument from Charlie Shanks. 7-10 now.
Well, he knew that he got too close there and even apologized to Luis. That was an easy call for our referee to make.
Nice 2-wall pass dug out, though, from Luis Moreno. Fooled Charlie Shanks, though. Now Luis in the driver's seat again. Little paddle shot from Shanks.
But you see the difference now in Charlie Shanks,
Point.
as Luis is fortunate to get an erratic bounce off that camera hole there on the right side front wall.
Luckily for Charlie, he built a pretty good
8
lead.
serving 10.
Charlie Shanks is now just being reactive to Luis Moreno, no longer dictating play,
Side out.
although at that time he's finally able to step into a shot and takes care of it with his left hand.
Ten serving 8.
In the interview, Dave, that you did yesterday, which we have not yet seen,
Hopefully
you
we won't.
described Luis Moreno as being cool, calm, and collected.
Side out.
I believe that's the strength of his game. He's down 10-3, Dave, here in the semifinals of the Players' Championship, playing to 15.
8
And he's not
serving
rattled.
10.
He's not going to rush. And he's not going to change his style of play. He believes in
Point.
himself. And look what Luis Moreno has been able to do, 6 straight points. Closing
9
Charlie's lead
serving
to
10.
just 1 point.
Short. Second serve.
These guys showing that they can play the up top game also.
Side out.
And Charlie takes it off the back wall, Dave. He could have taken that back to the ceiling, but he let that ball bounce just about 3 feet off the back wall and drilled it right at Luis's feet. Beautiful play.
10 serving 9.
Great angle to watch the hook serve of Charlie Shanks from here. This is just an absolutely incredible
Point.
show court, Dave. It's an amazing stage for these best players in the world. We've got the best court, I believe, to film on.
11
the most
serving
energetic
9.
fans. And also, Dave, the court is just
Short.
so solid all around. The floor is perfect. The walls are perfect. Every bounce virtually is a true bounce. This is all you could hope for
Second serve.
as a player playing in the Players' Championship.
I agree with you. Very bright, and that makes it easier for you to hit the ball and see the ball. Here's a huge setup for Charlie. He cracks it. Luis unable to get that ball back.
Charlie fortunate there. That was not a great back wall shot.
Audio test 1 2 3 4.
Could have very easily hung up on that left side wall, but instead it catches the crack and Luis Moreno
12
unable to make a
serving
play
9.
on it.
1.
I'm going to replay that. He was scrambling to get out of your way. No, it wasn't avoidable. You were scrambling to get out of there. He didn't get a good swing at it.
I like that call from our referee. Charlie, I believe, has to keep going there, Dave, because if he just stops,
12
the referee
serving
hasn't
9.
said anything. Could very easily have just been a side out. I believe as a player, you just have to keep going in that spot. And Charlie, Dave, very poor decision to hit that ball softly into the right
9
corner. He had
serving
Luis
12.
completely out of position. Huge setup. And Charlie, Dave, easily could be up 13-9 with that very big setup in the front court. Instead, allows Luis Moreno to play
10
that kill
serving
shot.
12.
Now it's Luis closing the gap to just 2.
Point.
And this can be the difference in these matchups.
11 serving 12.
Now we're at 11 to 12. The clock is ticking here on Charlie.
Point.
And there's another point.
And Luis has now won 4 rallies in a row, 3 points in a row, after it seemed like Charlie had all the
12
momentum.
serving 12. Short. Second serve.
Beautiful shot from Charlie Shanks. Not a good serve at all from Luis Moreno. A Z serve right into the wheelhouse of Charlie Shanks. It was about 37 feet deep, but Charlie able to step into it. The ball coming
12
right into his
serving
body.
12.
Hits a great shot under pressure.
Broken ball.
And a broken ball.
Mm.
You're watching the WPH Simple Green Players Championship. We're live in Seattle, Washington. Luis Moreno is the #1 seed up against the #5 seed Charlie Shanks as they make their way to the finals for the Players Championship. Who will win the race? As we described yesterday, this is actually a pro stop, and that will award pro money and pro rankings. We'll take that rankings and then put it against what we currently have with the race standings, and we'll find out who the winner of that is. It could be 2 different people. For example, Luis Moreno could lose even in this round and still win the Players' Championship because he has enough points throughout the year. I believe he made it and won 4 of the 7 previous events.
Can you get the standings up on the message?
Shanks serving. 12 serving 12.
Luis Moreno guarantees himself the race championship, the season point standings, if he were to make the finals here.
Side out.
But if he loses, he would have to lose the third place match against the loser of the bottom semifinal.
12 serving
correct?
12.
And
Luis
Sean
would
would
have
have to win.
Luis would have to finish 4th, and Sean would have to finish 1st in order for Sean Lang to win the championship.
Oh, wow. So
Nadia Alvarado is not mathematically alive with Luis Moreno making the semifinals here.
13 serving 12.
So in other words, if Luis Moreno loses this match, he's now up by 1, going to 15. Charlie's going to have a opportunity to keep Luis in the backcourt here. And once again, Charlie's
Not a good shot from Luis. Luis is frustrated with himself there, Dave. Had a great opportunity to be serving for this first game. Instead, he just paddled that ball right to Charlie. And Charlie just had an easy flip back down the left, earn the side out.
Score is 12 serving 13.
12 to 13. You heard the referee, John Bike, called the score here. You have to win by 2, Dave.
Actually, you don't have to win by 2. We're playing traditional scoring here, so it's win by 1. Both guys moving each
13,
other around the court
7-12.
there with 2-wall drives. Big setup here for Luis.
No, replay. It's just
I actually disagree with that call there. I
he's-
believe
he's
that
wrong- he's
wasn't
off to the
avoidable.
side.
And if
If
we
he's
can
not
take a
running
quick
into
instant
it, it's a
replay of that.
replay.
Not sure we'll have time, but watch.
Yeah, we do.
I believe Charlie moves right in front.
And he was. 13
I
serving
agree
12.
with you. That was an
Okay.
avoidable hinder. 13 to 12. Luis now serving. And that's going to be a tough one to get back. Charlie
Replay.
does do it. The ball tipped Luis on the way by.
Interestingly, though, Dave, John Bike saw that replay. He has a monitor right next to his screen, and he agreed with his call there.
13 serving 12.
That's why you heard him say nope. I disagree with that. That nope from John Bike.
Charlie Shanks with sort of an excuse me swing there, Dave. Just fought that ball off and hit it 2 inches high.
Twelve serving 13.
Terrible serve there from Charlie.
Replay. That's where he is. 12 serving 13. Point.
Now we're all together at 13. Chip Morales, our statistician, keeping track
13
here.
serving 13.
Looking forward to seeing the statistics here from this first game. Obviously, both guys have served an equal number of times.
Actually, we're going to go to Chip Morales after this game concludes with Ashley Moeller, who's going to catch him with the sideline microphone.
Luis is asking for a lot of
13,
avoidables
serving
here, Dave. You might see a
13.
player ask for 1 in a match, but Luis has already asked for 4,
Short.
including 3 in the last 4 rallies. He was upset that he hit Charlie Shanks' glove on the way in on that return of serve kill, which is just sort of one of those unlucky breaks, but certainly not an avoidable. It wasn't as though
Short.
Charlie,
Side out.
Charlie double faults at 13.
and I've seen this before from Charlie, Dave. Has a
13
tendency
serving
to
13.
go for too much on his second serve under pressure.
Handcuffs Luis. Here's a setup for Charlie Shanks. Goes to the corner. Luis gets it. Charlie powers it by him with 2-all pass. Luis once again puts a hand on it. Now Luis is in control of this rally. And he
Point.
proves it right there with a point at 14. Luis Moreno now serving to win the first game.
Charlie has to be very frustrated with himself. A double fault and then 3 huge setups to win that rally. Dave
14,
unable to
serving
convert on any of
13.
them. And now it's Luis Moreno serving for the first game.
We'll go to Ashley Moeller after this game concludes. She will be sitting next to Chip Morales, who will give us a rundown of the stats that he is keeping
Second
here
serve.
on this first game.
Don't
This could
forget,
be-
Dave, Luis Moreno trailed 10-3 in this game. Making an incredible comeback here.
Charlie's going to go for this in the corner, and he gets it. Now Charlie's back serving again.
That's a tricky shot in that back right corner. The ball slowing down as it hits the right side wall, and Charlie times his swing perfectly and just pinches that right
13,
corner.
serving 14.
This could be a setup for Charlie. That's where Luis is so dangerous. Charlie shows Luis where he stands on the court there, and Luis says, well, he's not, he's in the middle of the court. I'm just going to go right down this wall. Here it is, game point. Luis Moreno serving.
Luis threaded the needle, Dave, on that back wall kill to earn him that side out. He was just 6 inches from the right side wall, but had the control
13.
to drill the ball straight back down the right. Not a good serve.
There it is. Luis Moreno takes game number 1.
13.
Wins
3 minutes.
15-13, and the announcement from John Pike there, he barks out 3 minutes to the players. You're watching the Players Championship here live in Seattle, Washington. Let's go to Ashley Moeller, who is courtside with Chip Morales right now. Ashley?
Thanks, Dave. Now, Chip, you're sitting here keeping stats courtside. What are some interesting numbers you've seen that led Luis back into this game?
I would have to say errors. Errors, shots hit into the floor, hit off your hand, avoidable hinders, stuff like that. Charlie had 11 of those in those categories, and Luis only had two errors, 2 missed shots. Still wasn't enough, and he also led in aces. I would have to definitely say that the errors that Charlie's made has caused him to lose that first game.
All right, thanks for that insight, Chip. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you. A little bit of technical difficulty with the microphone cutting out there, but
2 minutes left.
that's kind of what is expected here when you're surrounded by a bunch of concrete and steel inside the Washington Athletic Club. The show court here is feeling the vibes from all of that energy of that 15-13 match here. Now, Dave, were you one of those players or one of the analysts that felt that Charlie Shanks should or could beat Luis Moreno here in Seattle in this round?
I actually predicted Charlie Shanks winning this match either in 2 close games or in a tiebreaker. It looked like Charlie Shanks was well on his way to cruising in that first game, relinquished that big lead at 10-3, but still had a lot of chances in the end of that game where he was unable to capitalize. You saw him put 3 or 4 balls in the ground in the last 5 rallies, including a double fault. So Luis Moreno never one to beat himself, only made 2 errors in that entire first game. Charlie Shanks made 11 errors. It felt like even more. But now Charlie Shanks is going to have to climb that mountain. He's going to have to win the next 2 games if he wants to advance to the final here.
Now, I don't know what weight division you would be if you were in boxing, but are you preparing for a boxing bout a little later on here, or the Pacquiao fight?
Actually, yeah, you and I are going to be meeting down in the parking lot.
That's called the light heavyweight bout that we'll have a little later on. Actually, I bring knives when I fight. So anyway, we want to thank you for tuning into the live broadcast here at racefor8.com, as we'll have more of this game number 2 coming up right around the corner. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a bit. Stick with us.
Oh, you're so juvenile.
It's like you, sweeter.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy. My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
So you taking a timeout? Otherwise, the point. We're over 3 minutes. Timeout. Timeout, Moreno. 1 minute.
I believe, Dave, that Luis Moreno was just charged with a timeout for not being prepared to play at the 3-minute mark. Yesterday, Dave, we weren't able to pick this up, but Andy Nett trailed 1-0 in the tiebreaker against Luis Moreno because he didn't enter the court on time. So Andy Nett would have had to have outscored Luis Moreno 11-10 to win that tiebreaker.
20 seconds.
Very difficult for the players, Dave, because when they go outside the court, they can't hear the referee. You're in sort of a balcony of a swimming pool, and it's soundproof. So you have no way of knowing when it's time to play. So I was
serving 0.
a little bit disappointed about that ruling that went against the Dreamboat yesterday. Now clearly it's a player's responsibility to some degree to get themselves back in the court, but any other sport has horns and officials coming over and telling you to break your huddle. And
well, the referee is saying 15 minutes or
0
15
serving
seconds
0.
and giving the countdown, and Andy could elect to leave that door open. He's sitting at that time yesterday, sitting just within a foot of that door. He can leave it open so he can hear the announcement. You can't just assume that you're going to hear that speaker from outside in that hallway.
Well, that door closes automatically, so I'm not sure how.
There's a towel right there by the door.
0 serving
meant
0.
For that purpose, to keep it open.
Okay.
But that's not the problem. I talked to Luis Moreno yesterday. He said Andy just left. He was gone. I don't know where he was at. He said I looked for him and he wasn't in the hallway. He picked up his stuff and went
serving
someplace
0.
that he couldn't find him. Maybe to the women's yoga room on floor 6.
I saw you get in, what was it, 2 yoga classes this morning before breakfast?
I'm just trying to get more flexible.
I know you've also been doing a lot of Pilates. Unfortunately, those classes have been filled. Brian Henson actually teaches one of those
0
classes. Still
serving
wasn't
1.
able to get you in, though.
0 serves 1.
Charlie just has not been sharp off the back wall with his right hand. He's had a lot of back wall opportunities with his right hand, has not been able to convert on many
0
of them.
serving 1. Short.
Charlie Shanks did hit 9 kill shots in that last game.
Second
Dave,
serve.
negated those with 11 airs.
Hold it.
If your opponent, Dave, is only making 2 airs, as Luis Moreno did in that first
0
game,
serving 1.
combined with 6 kills, you're going to have to reduce those airs.
Point.
At this first break, we'll talk to Luis Moreno and see how he prepares.
1 serving 1.
Charlie Shanks looks a little bit flat to me right now, Dave.
Point.
I thought that was short, and it was a fist pump from Luis Moreno to try to sell it.
I thought the ball broke.
2 serving 1.
Great serve, though.
We have a court microphone right there near that center hole. That's why sounds like it's splatting up there on that front wall. Plus, this concrete wall is.
Great footwork there from Luis Moreno. He's really starting to engage himself here in this tournament for the first time. You can see him making those quick adjustment steps, and he's turning sideways now,
3
Dave, and he's
serving
just
1.
really starting to let his swing go. You can even see it now on the serve. This is when Luis Moreno plays his best, Dave. He has a tendency at times, we haven't seen it too much throughout this season, but he gets a little bit sloppy with his footwork. He goes into those junk time shots
4 serving 1.
and the paddle shots and the off-balance fadeaway shots. But the Luis Moreno, Dave, that's able to step
Timeout
into his
Shanks. That's
shots
his first. 1 minute.
is the
5
best player
serving
in
1.
the world, or at least in that top 2.
Earlier in this tournament, we sat down with Luis Moreno and asked him how he prepares for a big handball tournament. This is what Luis Moreno had to say.
I didn't really prepare any different than any other event. Obviously, you know, there's a lot more into this tournament, and it's the last pro step of the season, but I just did my usual training, you know, yoga and whatnot, just play handball once a month, twice a month, and yeah, I didn't really do anything different.
That's Luis Moreno talking about what he did to prepare. He says he likes to do yoga and doesn't really train by playing handball. And you and I kind of both felt that maybe that might have hurt him coming into the Players' Championship. He did not look like he was in shape last night, and we saw him really huffing and puffing. Now, we're not at a higher altitude, Tucson being, you know, just above the 2,000-foot mark above sea level, and here in Seattle, we're between 0 and 553 feet. So
that's actually an advantage to Luis, who trains in altitude and then comes down to sea level. Has a lot more white blood cells. I kind of just made that up. But I think you knew where I was going with it.
5 serving 1.
5 serves 1 is a score after that timeout from Charlie Shanks. And there's a point where Charlie was just not even out of the block yet.
6 serving 1.
This looks like the beginning of the first game in favor of Charlie Shanks, and now it's Luis Moreno who looks so good, completely mishitting a serve off the bottom of his hand.
1 serving 6. Point.
Immediately following this match, Dave, will be hometown favorite, local legend Sean Lenning, taking on the incomparable Nadi Alvarado Jr.
Second serve.
And Sean looked really good last night.
The knock on Sean sometimes, Dave, has been that he's not a good hometown player. Hasn't really played his best handball here at the Washington Athletic Club. We'll see if he can turn that around this week. I know that
serving 2.
Sean has been at this club every day for the last month that he's been in Seattle, training here.
There's a screen called.
1 screen.
Referee is John Bike.
Charlie Shanks just does not look good right now.
That's frustrating if you're Charlie. Luis standing in one
6
spot, Charlie going
2.
back and forth behind him. Finally, the referee decides to call a screen there. Charlie wishes that Luis would get out of the way, but Charlie has to stop hitting balls in front of Luis.
Point.
And there's another point for Moreno, who's looking and gearing up to go into
7
the finals
serving
here.
2.
And if he does make the finals, no matter what happens with Sean Lenning, Luis is the Players' Champion.
It's true.
Nice dig right there from Charlie Shanks, but Luis Moreno puts it down. Charlie back into it here.
And that's because Luis has a 6-point lead on Sean Lenning. And if Luis Moreno were to finish second, the most points
8
Sean
serving
Lenning
2.
could gain would be 4, with a 20-point to 16-point victory. Charlie Shanks, to me, looks exhausted and
9
a little
serving
bit
2.
deflated mentally right now.
Well, you can see that in his footwork. There's another point there. Charlie not even going for that ball.
Well, it's very deflating,
10
Dave, when
serving
you're
2.
on the verge of taking out the #1 player in game number 1. You let a few opportunities slip, and now you find yourself
11
down a
serving
game
2. Short.
and also upset with yourself.
Second serve.
It's easy to say, you know, these guys are pro athletes. You should be at your best at all times, but emotions
Short.
play a big part
Luis
in
is
any
appealing.
type of
I saw
sports,
the
Dave,
ball
including
short.
pro sports. And now Luis with a double fault.
The call stands. Side out. Two serving 11.
It was not at the crucial type of moment that we saw Charlie Shanks double fault, though. Charlie Shanks double faulting at 13 all in that first game, playing to 15. Luis can afford to double fault, being up 11-2. If you're going to double fault, Dave, 11-2 is a good time to do it.
3 serving 11.
That's a good point.
Luis just overpowering Charlie now, Dave.
Hopefully we can get an interview with Ashley Moeller and Luis Moreno if he were to go on and get this win here, because I'd love for Ashley to tell Luis Moreno that he is the Players' Champion. We have a yellow jersey for the Players Champion, even though they could be two different names out here. We have a winner of the Pro Stop and also the Players Champion, both getting yellow jerseys. It could be the same person. It could be two different people.
I thought the Players Champion for the season, Dave, actually got a gold bracelet, similar to the World Series of Poker gold bracelet. I thought that Luis might be fitted for that. We know his height and weight.
11.
I don't know if we know his wrist size, though.
Well, Luis told me off camera that he collects yellow jerseys, so I think he'll be happy with that result.
So he's not getting a gold bracelet then.
That's right.
What you're saying. Okay.
But if Ashley Moeller can make it to the booth here, we actually have a Players jersey, a yellow one, pre-made for the top three players that we felt that were statistically in, to include Nadia Alvarado, Luis Moreno, and Sean Lenning. We have the Luis Moreno yellow jersey here. We'd present it to him on the court if he were to get these last 4 points. Charlie Shanks gets a point there, though, and does not want to go away.
Is that kind of like in the NFC Championship when a team has shirts made for themselves, but then they end up losing the game that say NFC Champions? So what do you do with that shirt?
eBay.
Oh,
Score is
eBay.
4, serving 11.
So
Sorry,
is
I said that so quick.
No, I always was curious about that. So that's just a, you discount that by, what, about half of what the retail value would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything to get rid of it. It's either that or you have to go pay rental fees at a storage unit.
Yeah, that can get expensive.
$11, serving 4. Hold it. $11, serving 4. Point.
We've seen the level of Charlie Shanks' game, Dave, go from really at about a
12,
a
serving
10
4.
on a 10-point scale, now down to about a 3. Nice call by John Bike there.
$13, serving 4.
13-4. Moreno 2 points away from being crowned the Players Champion in this race for 8. It's a very tense moment for all the Moreno fans out there.
Hold it.
And that should have been an avoidable hinder. I agree with Luis Moreno there. Charlie making no attempt there. He had plenty of time with that ball moving so slowly.
It just looked dangerous. 13, serving 4.
That ball just over the short line. Luis goes with the
What an
tomahawk and gets his 14th point.
Incredible shot there, Dave, from Luis Moreno.
And now Luis Moreno feels it. Here it is. Luis Moreno's a point away from
14,
making the
74.
finals and from being crowned the race champion.
I just hope they can clean all that graffiti that's going to come out of the ceiling after
Second
Luis
serve.
wins this last point before the next match. And this should do it.
Ball breaks, I believe.
That's just how much Luis wants this title, Dave.
Well, he did that break with a paddle shot. Tells you just how strong Luis Moreno is here. We've had a long race season, Dave Fink. Started off in 2011 in October in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho at Peak Health and Wellness. Luis Moreno won that pro stop. And then he lost in the semifinals of the U.S. Open. Bounces back in Tucson, Arizona right afterwards. Didn't have a great showing in Fresno, but he wins Atlanta. It's been
We're at 14.
mainly an
match
up
points,
season for
serving
Luis
4.
Moreno, but he's been dominating since the very beginning. And here it is, a point away from winning the actual race for 8. And there's going to be a replay now. He still has
14,
something to
serving
play
4.
for, though, for this tournament. He wants to win this because there's a big payday at the end of that as well. And there it is. Luis skips it in out of the camera view. And you can see how tense this is in the crowd. Those fans are biting their nails, watching the instant replays. They want Luis to win this as well.
Players, Dave,
4,
every
serving
player that
14.
finished the season in the top 8 will be awarded bonus money. That'll come in the form, Dave, of a oversized check that'll be presented at your door. Ed McMahon will be coming in. It's sort of a publisher's clearinghouse
5,
type of situation.
14.
They might catch you in the middle of the night, but are you going to turn down your oversized check for a substantial amount of cash.
Well, if Ed McMahon shows up at your doorstep, that means that he has found some way to go from the past life to this one, because he passed away in 2009. But I see what you're saying. And there's another side out. Luis Moreno looking at that one last point.
14, serving 6.
And another side out. Charlie's not going away here. Luis Moreno's had 4 attempts now to win the Race for 8 Players Championship here in the semifinal versus Charlie Shanks. Here it is, 6-14.
This is like, Dave, when you know a pitcher's going for a perfect game, you just want to do anything you can to try and prevent your team from being the victim of a perfect game. Charlie Shanks does not want to be the guy that's known for losing the match that won Luis Moreno the Race Points Championship. And he told me that, Dave. He doesn't want to be on the court for that celebration.
14, serving 6.
These guys have hit each other with the ball, Dave, more times than I've seen combined in the last 3 tournaments of all matches. We don't have stats on that, but I believe, Dave, by my calculation, that that was the 13th time that these guys have hit one another with the ball. As a means of comparison, Dave, in my 2 matches, either myself or my opponent has only been hit by the ball 1 time. I don't know what that means necessarily, but what I'm saying is these guys are finding that bullseye on one another's
14,
back.
14, serving 6.
14 serves 6. Moreno trying to win the Players' Championship. See how Luis gets back up in the front court here.
Almost daring Charlie to pass him there.
Luis's court position is really good, Dave.
That's the match.
And there it is. Luis Moreno does it.
13, 15-6.
Luis goes to the finals of this tournament, but he's also the Players' Champion in the Race for 8. I'm not sure the crowd really truly knows what Luis Moreno just did, as now he steps onto the court. A yellow jersey is in Ashley's hands, and Luis is probably thinking to himself, what in the world did I do here? Let's go to Ashley and have it all figured out.
Luis, as you may or may not know, this win has clinched your #1 spot for the race season, and I would like to present to you your yellow jersey for winning the first Race for 8.
There it is. Congratulations.
I'd like to hear some words from you on how this feels.
What was that?
Sorry, how does it feel winning the very first Race for 8?
I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just taking it, 1 point at a time, and let's see what happens. This is nice to win it, but it's not over.
All right, we'll see you tonight in the finals at 8 o'clock. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Actually, it is over. That's kind of the thing. I know he wants to win the tournament, but he actually statistically cannot be overtaken by Sean Linning, who would be within 4 points, which after a long season like this, it's almost a statistical tie. When you really look at the scheme of things, these guys are so close if Sean Linning were to win the actual pro stop here, Dave. But congratulations out to Luis Moreno. He said he doesn't want to think about it right now, but really, truly, this is the whole reason why he got involved in this tour. He went to every single one of the stops. He told us in Salt Lake City that he wanted to become the Players' Champion. He just got it, and then he says, I'm not really thinking about that. And I really, frankly, I guess I don't blame him. He's wanting to think about the target, and that's this tournament right here. Luis Moreno is the first ever WPH Simple Green Race for 8 Players' Champion, even though we are still not completed with our full semifinal schedule here at the Washington Athletic Club. We're going to take a break. We have Nate Alvarado coming up next with hometown favorite Sean Linning. More action on the way. Stay here at racefor8.com. Stick with us.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy. My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darts there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
My name is Bruce Fabrizio. In 1975, I invented Simple Green based on 3 principles. It had to be safer to use, it had to work, and it had to be completely made in America. From generation to generation, Simple Green has been cleaning everything from car engines and tools to kitchen counters and floors. No matter what you clean, indoors or outdoors, clean it with non-toxic, biodegradable Simple Green.